And I'm recording this for posterity. All right. So first I want to start off with what is retention? What is employee retention? Feel free to chime in, anybody.
Just retaining your employees, keeping them on board.
Yeah.
Keeping them engaged.
Yeah. It's how many people have you held
Held on
or
to.
have stayed? Right. How many of you held sounds a little loaded, but yeah, how many have stayed? How many have stayed year over year? And turnover is
How many have left?
how many have left? Typically year over year.
Yeah.
Now, what is attrition?
Attrition is more natural.
Right.
Individuals leaving the organization.
Yes. So attrition, those are the people that just kind of leave on their own. Those are retirements. And also sadly, and Jessica, you mentioned this, layoffs. So layoffs are considered under that attrition number. So just to kind of level set, again, retention, those are the people that have stayed. Turnover, the people have left overall. Attrition, how many people have kind of naturally shaken out? I guess if it's a layoff, it's not really natural per se. Oh, looks like a forward a little bit. So the next important thing is, why does this matter? Why is retention important? So if you take a look at these 10 things, these 10 benefits of employee retention, is there anything that we missed? I tried to include everything, but these are the 10 that I came up with. And from a talent development perspective, which ones do you think that we affect?
In some way, all of them.
Yeah. It's a great point.
All 10.
All 10.
All
It-
10.
How about for executive leadership? Executive leadership, what's the most important thing? What's the leverage that we can use as talent development professionals?
A lot of times it comes down to the cost reduction, customer retention, employee morale,
Yep.
and hopefully increase revenue. That's the things they want to see: lower costs, lower expenses, increase revenue.
Yep. Right. Yeah. So from and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but folks, in my reading on this, what I found is the C-suite is now starting to understand the importance of employee retention. Although one of the first things they look at is, of course, cost. We're managing cost. If you have too many people, not enough work, obviously you have to let people go. So that's a factor there. But it seems like the C-suite now is really starting to understand the benefits of employee retention, and specifically how us folks in training and development can affect that. Because it does affect all 10 of these things. And look, to your point, Jeffrey, we touch on all of these. We really do. We can affect all of these things as team lead professionals. So I want to jump to the next slide here. Just some stats. Let's see if I can move this up a little bit. So some of the realities of retention. Take a look at these stats. Any of them kind of jump out at you and seem very surprising?
%32% of new employees quit after 6 months.
That doesn't surprise me, but what does is that the 25 to 34-year-old, 3 years. I kind of thought they may have fallen into like the 1 to 2 year.
Yeah, that seems to be, that's the average. It's according to, and this is very recent. The Bureau of Labor Standards just recently updated their reports. But yeah, I'm kind of with Neil. That first one just blew my mind.
Trying to figure out how to put a job in 6 months.
No, but I don't know why it doesn't.
Yeah,
surprise me.
unfortunately, I've been on a few hiring committees recently, and I can believe, when I started looking at resumes in the past, we were looking for people of 5 years or more. Then we kind of lowered the bar as, okay, are they sticking around at least 3 years?
Yeah,
Now, I see so many people who list their jobs, and they may have 3 or 4 within a year.
Yeah.
It may be, and a lot of times it's still within the same sector.
that's what I said.
And it's individuals that are the 25 to 34-year-olds actually. Because I would assume that would be more prevalent for the Gen Zs, those that are much younger, someone fresh out of high school, fresh out of college. But I'm amazed that people are bouncing so quickly.
Yeah, this is shocking to me. And I have a friend who's a recruiter at PayPal, and she told me, yeah, it's like 4 months is kind of their average tenure for new hires. They have this revolving door thing, but many of these people are so highly skilled, they hire them right back.
Been a minute.
And
I think someone who's iPhone 5, they said that I'm seeing that
Oh.
now saying 2 to 3 times a year. I log into that.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
And one of the clients I work with, which is a major corporation, they're used to it now. They've done away with the interviews. They just, if people's resume looks fine, they hire them because they know they're gonna have such a high turnover.
Oh, gosh, like it's not even worth the expense of setting up the interviews.
Correct, and that was the thing, is the expense of scheduling interviews back. They still do the background checks, but as long as they come back with a clean background check, they're hired.
Holy cow. That's,
And it's a major corporation. That's what kind of blew my mind.
that's very surprising to hear.
It's surprising to hear, but it kind of plays in something I've been saying. You have people interviewing 7 times for one role. All the amount of time and energy going into interviewing. Well, you still have to train them on the job. So it's going back to, is this person really qualified? You still have to train them. And there are transferable skills that leaders can take, or those who are interviewing, or managers can actually pull out of those and actually train them. That's, in my opinion, the better investment in dollars. And so when I was in a hiring manager role, and so I rather hire someone that had some of the skills than all of the skills, and then build that development. So at least I will get 2 to 3 years out of the implement, and then build out a plan, and an action plan going forward there.
Yeah, so in other words, you had that captive audience who was going to be developed all along the way. So at least you had them for 2 to 3 years.
Hey,
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, with all of these, I wasn't surprised by like the average tenure, lowest tenure, any of that stuff. I was very inspired to see 93% of organizations are concerned about employee retention. So that's in the number 3, that's the LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report, which I highly recommend that you check out. Goes into a lot of detail. Again, the C-suite is starting to realize the impacts of this. So the C-suite now, I think we've kind of turned the corner where they're seeing the benefits of development. They're seeing the benefits. And I think we're seeing this. I don't know about you all, but I think we're starting to hear more and more that our skills are in demand. That the importance of training and development is actually being considered now as one of the factors that do lead to retention. And that number 4, the average cost to replace one employee, $52,000. That's nuts. But it makes sense when you consider 7 interviews, how much time that takes.
7 interviews.
Yeah. And then Indeed, Glassdoor, I mean, whatever utility that they're using to get the resumes from that.
Mhm.
Then you've got an HR manager's time to cull through all those resumes. And then depending on the level, and that's that last one there, the cost of replacing an employee is from 50% to 200% of annual salary. The factor there is what level they're at. So if it's a, low level hourly employee, entry level, it's going to be about 50%, but 200% would be for the C-suite.
So Andrea said that it costs more to replace her.
It costs more to replace her.
That's what she said. Is there a dollar figure, Andrea?
I'm outside walking, so I had you on mute. What did you say, Neil?
That it costs more to replace you.
Absolutely, absolutely. At least twice as much. Carry on.
That's awesome. So, why do we leave? Again, this was one of the many rabbit holes I went down as I was pulling this together. So you can see, I pulled two resources here. One was Pew, the Pew research. This was from 2021. The other one was from McKinsey. And let me just this down a little bit so you can see it.
They don't see that on the screen, only us.
There we go. So there you can see the McKinsey one is a little bit more recent. And I realize it's a little busy, but if we take a look at some of these main reasons, yeah, usually the top three don't change too much. But recently we've seen pay, the reemergence of pay is number one. So what fueled, and feel free to disagree, folks, but everything I read is what fueled a lot of the Great Resignation.
Cost of eggs.
Inflation, which caused people to look at like, I'm not making enough money, and wait, salary.com says that I should be making X amount. I'm going to look for something new here. So a lot of people just started leaving their employer just for pay, for base pay reasons. So that's that pay was too low, opportunities for advancement. And if you look at the McKinsey one, lack of career development and advancement.
And ECE just put out a white paper that was based on several studies, and it was lack of investment in the employees, lack of alignment. They don't feel connected or aligned to the organization anymore.
Right.
And so they want to be invested in, they want to be connected.
Yeah.
So, and what we were showing is how training can help reconnect them, that the learning opportunities really does make them feel that they're aligned with the organization, they better understand the values, and also that they're being invested in, groomed for those future positions, even though it may take a little longer to hit.
Yeah, right on. And ECE has so many great programs to be able to fill that gap and create programs. You can create management development programs as well. Yeah, I mean, again, folks, this is why I'm very optimistic about talent development, because I think we've turned the corner here. I think no longer are we just this overhead expense. I think now many in the C-suite are seeing the criticality of coaching, development, all the great stuff that we offer.
And kind of going back to that LinkedIn report that just came out, the Gen Z state that that's one of the benefits they look for now is educational benefits, career advancement, and personal development.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Yeah. That's for many folks, that's one of the first questions that they ask. So what's your development program look like? Yeah, but we offer this pay. Yeah. I'm too young to care about maternity pay right now. I want to know what's your
And
career
also,
development.
those being interviewed have flipped the script to say, because you see the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I've read and have experienced where people say, where do you see me in 3 years within this organization? What are the opportunities that may come my way?
What do you have for me? Right. What are you going to offer to me? Right. Except I love that.
And I
Now-
think,
Go ahead.
I think organizations have to have multiple streams, if you will, of ways of motivating employees. And usually it's one or two, meaning if you don't have great pay, but I have great work-life balance, I'm connected to a lot of different initiatives within the organization. I feel valued, I feel appreciated. When you have so many other things going on, it is easier, I think, to retain employees than just saying, oh, we let you work from home, we don't really have anything else to offer. Or we have a great 401k, but you're a low wage employee. And again, there's nothing else that's keeping that employee there. If you have multiple things that's going on in your strategy, I think it's an easier sale to keep the employee there. And I'm seeing companies that just don't offer multiple things that's going on to attract their employees. One or two, maybe. And I think they're falling short.
And we're looking for that short-term and long-term gratification.
Yeah. Oh, right on, right on. It's a really good point because this one size does not fit all. So that multi-pronged approach is what organizations should be looking at. And I think that there's a lot of work to be done, especially when it comes to that third one, feeling disrespected at work. And you can see uncaring and uninspiring leaders. I think we have a lot of work to do there. There's a lot of work to do in the DEI space, I think, as we all know, and just in general. And this hits home for me because I've worked for, and I'm sure we all have, I've worked for organizations where the leaders were just, there's a disconnect there. They were much more focused on productivity, less focused on the fact that I'm a human being.
Well, that's something else I wanted to add. And I apologize, I can't see who's talking because I'm walking. They use a lot of managers based on their experience. Oh, this person has done this, that, and the other. So either they come up through the ranks in the operations or they pull someone from another organization. But what they don't do, especially when they come up through the ranks, they don't train them or give them any type of guidance in how to lead, how to motivate, how to encourage, how to coach. But they're managers or they're directors. So they care about results, and that's great. But I was reading some type of research paper where they said that you can get better results if you show that you care about the people, then you can get the results from caring about the people, as opposed to just caring about the productivity and the results only. So I think that is a huge missing. They're making a lot of people lead others, but they don't have the experience on how to effectively lead others.
Amen and hallelujah.
Well, I was early in my career, prior to coming to Georgia, I met with a lot of organizations. We provided a lot of training. But I met with this gentleman who happened to be a billionaire, on one of the largest companies in North Carolina. And we were having a conversation about why he was so successful. He said, I take care of everything within my organization. And I asked him to elaborate. He said, well, everybody sees equipment in people. A lot of manufacturers put more money into their equipment. They don't realize the people are also a part of that.
Mhm.
So the better people, the better trained they are, the better too, in making sure their maintenance. And what he meant by maintenance is making sure they had the benefits, the healthcare, the daycare, the mental health, and the leave, the PTO days, so they could be their sharpest, best individual. And they took care of the company. They took care of the non-human equipment, is the way he put it.
There's two, yes. Oh, I love where this is going. I do feel that we're just at the beginning. This is just my personal opinion, but it's kind of validated by some of what I've seen and heard. I think we're also about to turn the tide on that realization that these, we're not just machines. We are human beings, that we do have particular needs and sensitivities that we do need to factor in. And one of them, and Andrea, I have to honor a little bit what you were talking about, is there's this idea of, maybe some of you have heard of the service profit chain, It's this idea that if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of the customers. So if you treat your employees well, they'll treat the customers well, which means you'll get more business. So it's a synergistic thing. If you treat your employees badly, they're going to produce a bad product and they're not going to treat the customers well.
Someone asked in the chat, what were the factors that were important to your leadership to get the results?
What were the factors important to your leadership to get the
So what
results?
are the important factors to getting those results? So customer service, internal service, as far as internal service, which is your employees, you know? And so you're talking about that chain there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's sure. I mean, it's kind of all in, and it's all in and also individual. So my perspective about this is that once we get to a point where we are treating people as individuals with individual needs versus, oh, they are employees. No, they're individuals. So we have to treat everybody differently. You know, like maternity leave may not mean anything to some people, but time off to go on vacations, that means a lot more to them. So we have to customize our treatment of individuals.
20 years ago, it would have been unheard of for companies that offer pet insurance. Now,
Right.
that is becoming more commonplace.
Yeah.
Great example.
It's a great example. I was with a client out in Mexico, and one of the managers was in the class, and he was like, you know, his employee didn't come to work because he didn't have anyone to watch his dog.
That work.
And he was like, he's not the only one. They wouldn't come because they needed someone to watch and care for their dog.
I
The
used
dog
to-
had a surgery, and the dog needed to be watched. And for some people, they're like, no, you come to work. And I was like, well,
For some people, that's their children.
It is. I used to do a training on managing multiple generations. And that blew people's mind because I'd have people argue, well, those aren't people's children. So they should. I said, well, you have grandchildren. Yeah. Well, do you take time off to go to their sport events or take them to the doctor for your child? Yeah, I do, but that's my grandchild. Well, the way you're invested in your grandchild, people are invested in their pets.
100%.
And another thing is not just childcare, but elder care nowadays.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's another, the sandwich generation, right? We've got kids and our parents that we have to take care of now. I wanted to mention something else that Jeffrey, you had mentioned. And Neil, thank you for monitoring the chat because
oh, you're fine.
I'm way into this topic, so I might go off on
Be
a
in your
tangent.
happy space, Jonathan. Be in your happy space.
Okay, cool. So the other thing that I think people are starting to realize is that people are not an expense. People are an asset. And remember that article that we read the other day, that
Mhm.
Fortune article? So anybody who has an accounting background, how are employees viewed? They're an expense. They're not an asset. So therefore, companies actually invest more money in the maintenance of their forklifts than they do the maintenance of their employees. So a forklift, because it's an asset, oh, you have to have regular maintenance schedule. You have to take care of it. Don't damage that machine. Now employees, we don't have a business, so you're gone. Just imagine if we started treating employees truly as assets. I think that fundamentally might change things.
You'll get the loyalty.
Well, people in businesses, people upgrade their systems. They need to upgrade their people.
Yes.
They need to move them along, provide them the latest and greatest in knowledge. Because everybody's updating their cell phone, but how often do you try to update your team members?
So during, I don't know if you all had heard this, and I really appreciate this discussion, folks, and please, and anybody that's, anybody from at home, feel free to chime in. But when the pandemic first started, you know, in the US, what did a lot of US companies do? They just started laying off people like in droves. In Europe, specifically in Germany, what they did is they went to employees and they said, you know, we're going through some difficult times. You know, who would volunteer to be part-time? Just imagine if we did that in this country. They treat their employees like assets. We don't want to just get rid of you. And many employees realize, okay, the company might not survive. So if I go part-time, this will help at least the company thrive or survive during this pandemic.
So did they do research to see if they all came back full-time?
Generally, yes. Generally, yes. Some of them they did have to let go because there was also, of course, the supply chain issues that occurred after.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
I have a friend who's a university president, and I think what he did at his location was very innovative. During when the pandemic first hit, he was told by the state that he needed to furlough everyone. What he did was delayed deciding on the furlough. And he took a look at, okay, where can we shift people? Because we know there's going to be more work created for managing the online students, taking care of their needs, answering phones and such, since they're not walking in. So instead of furloughing, he reassigned them and stated, this is, for the time being, this is temporary. We're going to evaluate in 6 months. Then you come back and say, okay, you're doing a wonderful job. He was able to get a small salary increase, it was only 3%, but people were happy. But he found other jobs so they would. But at the same time, he said, okay, who wants to volunteer for the furlough? If you want to be furloughed because you don't want to do another job, let us know. You know you're not going to get paid, but your job's guaranteed.
Right on. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so there's so many other strategies for retaining employees. And that's what I think sometimes in the United States, sometimes we have a tendency to look at things as like, well, we don't have any choice but to let people go. Well, if they were an asset, you wouldn't be so quick to do that. They're an expense, so it's much easier to shed an expense. But yeah, there's other strategies behind that. Love the discussion, folks. So why do we stay? So this is interesting. This is also from McKinsey, the McKinsey quarterly. And this graph I know is a little busy, so just takes a little bit of explanation as I get over here. As you can see, there's this dividing line here. And what they're saying is there's two factors involved. And for those of you who remember their theory classes from organizational behavior and dynamics, they say, well, there's two factors that go into, they called it the hygiene theory of why people stay at a job. The one of them is what attracts people to work. The other is what distracts people from work. So the main attractors, this is according to McKinsey, and they surveyed, I think it was, the N on this was 15 to 16,000 employees. And they said, okay, what are the top factors that keep you at your job? And this is very recent. This is just late last year that they did this. And as you can see, one of the top ones was meaningfulness of work. Does this mean something to you? Does this product or service, does this resonate with you in some way? And workplace flexibility, yeah, that's on the map now.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away, I think, as we all know. That's not going to go away. And then, of course, we have support for health and well-being, you know, the wellness programs, things like that, geographic ties and travel demands. But then you have what spurs attrition. In other words, why are people going to leave? Why are people want to leave? And there we have that total comp thing again. So compensation is up there. And as a matter of fact, compensation was up there more than the meaningfulness of work. And then
Housing rates are so expensive.
Right.
I'm sorry?
How can I buy a house?
Yeah. Yep.
But I still gotta pay this $1,800 a month in rent.
Yep.
To rent an apartment.
Yeah. And I think I heard this from, there's two people I coach that are younger. I think they're not quite Gen Z. I think they're millennial. But what they told me was, I know how much money my company has. I know the cash reserve that they're sitting on. So when they tell me that they don't have money for pay increases, they're lying to me. So I think this generation now is starting to call BS on, well, we don't have enough money for pay increases. It's like, yeah, you do. Stop it.
If you're public publicly traded. I know how to go.
Right,
I can just
you
go-
don't have to do.
You gotta report this to the SEC. I'm gonna go look.
SEC reports, it's all public information, absolutely. So I think we're becoming more savvy as employees.
So we have someone that posted, I think we have many who care, but not everyone. And it's hard to build culture without top leadership all bought in and modeling. Modeling it as expected and investing in it. So it's not enough just to model the way, but also invest in the way.
Indeed, yeah, so,
Thank you, iPhone 5.
yeah, thank you, iPhone 5. Yeah, so it's not just talking the talk, it's walking it too.
Putting your
So,
money where your mouth is. You gotta add the extra piece too. I can walk it, I can talk it, but I still need to back it up.
100%, yeah, 100%. And we have, one thing I love about the young professionals coming into the workplace right now, they're smart, they're savvy, they're using technology, and they're not buying, what I would have bought in my 20s. Oh, hey, you're a big corporate, I'm gonna believe everything that you tell me, and I'll just work really hard. They're starting to say, wait, according to Google, you're sitting on 3 billion in cash reserve, and you're telling me you don't have enough for my pay increase.
Labrie?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to the conversation that people are relying more on not only their personal feelings or subjective data, but actual objective data. And they're looking at our leadership to see what kind of behaviors are modeled. And so when they are observing how we act, how we move, and what we do, they're looking for patterns of behavior. And so when we look at the employee experience, it's based not just on one factor, but it's absolutely multiple dimensional. It really is, because retention is based on much more than what we thought it was, a couple of years ago, right? It's changing constantly.
Yeah.
Well, I have two sons, and sometimes I get frustrated with them because they'll tell me what they said or did at work, and I was like, in the past, I would have fired someone for that. Or, how do you talk to your boss like that? But having conversations with them, as they state, they're more vocal and they're more self-advocate of what they want and what they put out there.
Oh, yeah.
And just taking a step back, because my youngest son always wants to learn, always wants to grow. I asked him one day, I said, well, why do you want to stay where you're there other than the money you're making? He said, well, they value me growing and learning. I said, well, how's that? How do you know that? They offering you training? They said, yeah, they offer me training, but the owner of the company is always sitting, talking about the trainings he's going to, the articles he's read, always sharing informational pieces, always sharing learning opportunities, not just professional, but personal enrichment opportunities. Hey, they're Chattahoochee Tech's putting on this training on how to manage your money, or hey, anyone who wants to get into investing, here's a class on it. So he's always showing them education is important.
Yeah.
And to my youngster, he loves that is, oh, I get to learn more, I get to grow more.
Oh my gosh, 100%. So I, like all of us, I belong to a networking group, and one of them is at the Chamber of Commerce, one of our chambers of commerce here in the Atlanta area. And it's interesting because half of it is Gen X and baby boomer, and the other half is millennial Gen Z. So the discussions sometimes get a little uncomfortable and heated because of just what you had said. So the older generations will typically say, I don't understand, I pay these people well, and they just leave and they keep asking me questions and they want this and they want that. And the people on the other side of the table are saying, yeah, that's what we expect right now. I don't want you to just throw money at me. I want you to get to know me as an individual. And I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about well, why do you do it that way? That doesn't make any sense. There's better technology out there to do it. One of the gentlemen who was I would say more my demographic, was talking about, I don't understand why we have to use technology like Monday.com. We can just use Excel. And the people on the other side of the table were laughing at him. Excel? Why would you use Excel for project management? That makes no sense. And I think that kind of gets to that, this generational divide on where younger folks are going to ask questions. And, you know, Labrita, you had mentioned like how the needs, I think, are changing a lot. I'm looking at this McKinsey graph, and one of the reasons for attrition, adequacy of care, career development and advancement. That's becoming, Kia, you had mentioned this before, that's a demand now. That's a demand now. I don't know about you all, but that's relatively new.
It is new, and people are asking for it before they join your organization. I want to see the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you going to do for me?
Are you paying for my certification so I can move up within the
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah.
Are you gonna provide me opportunities or coaching?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So
Who's my
prior-
mentor gonna be?
Prior to this workshop, as we were setting up, I was doing career coaching for 2 Emory students. And, you know, they were asking, what should I ask her during a job interview? And so, and one literally said, she was like, well, I know my stuff. She's like, I don't know what else to ask outside, but I said, ask about workplace coaching. It's
Mhm.
not enough to be an expert in the field that you're in if the work environment isn't conducive that you can actually apply.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna add, this is not new. It's now voice,
Yes.
articulated. We have a shared language because it's sexy now. We have tools that we can share how we feel and be anonymous and support, you know, whether it is through social media or LinkedIn or professional sources or blogs. This is not new. This is voice, you know, where people want to know, how does my journey impact the work that I'm doing here? And how do I grow and transfer my skills and knowledge to be relevant and significant somewhere else? So these are not new conversations. It's just like the corporate slang that we handle around. We talked about, corporate responsibility, and all these ethics driven conversations. We can package them in different labels, but at the end of the day, the conversation isn't new.
You're correct about that. Most
Elevating.
HR professionals have been collecting this data for decades.
Yeah.
I'll say centuries. HR ain't been around for centuries. It feels like that way. For decades, it's now that you're highlighting it. It's not new. So I believe Nikki's on the phone from LSU right now. She's iPhone 5. I'll change her name. But this type of data has always been collected. Employee evaluations, employee surveys, engagement surveys.
And that's what's really frustrating when we come together as professionals to develop the strategic plan that has been strategically planned 5 years ago, and none of it has either been implemented or funded or truly supported. It's truly frustrating. So what do
Yeah, and and that's right. I think actually this is actually positive.
Mhm.
So I'm viewing all of this data now as very positive because look, this is McKinsey. McKinsey arguably the number one, if not number two, consulting firm that leadership listens to. Deloitte's saying the same thing.
Remember recording this.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we get the sponsorship. Oh, yes. Oh, ATD, of course, ATD. Yes. ATD was number one. That's why I said McKinsey is number two. Yes, correct. Thank you, Neil.
And kind of taking a few steps back is C-suite has to realize that a lot of the information in the past that would never get out there gets out there now.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is I met with a company recently. They wanted to talk to me about how university's partnership has been with a company they're considering partnering with. And I was honest, told them the good and the bad, and they said, oh, that confirms the employee information on Glassdoor. Because Well, more companies are turning to Glassdoor. Because if you don't treat your employees properly, or there's high turnover, you don't want to partner with them because your point of contact may change quickly. You want stability in your partnerships, so you want to see stability in the employees that they're retaining.
So I need to go to Glassdoor?
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, gosh, yeah, more and more people are going to Glassdoor. That just rhymed. So I took the liberty of collecting a lot of what I read. And I tried to put in order of what I think is the priority. So you can feel free to disagree with me on this, but on this right column here, there's a lot of factors that I think that go into employee retention. There's a lot, and probably the list is going to be a lot longer than this, but I tried to consolidate it as much as possible. So here you can see what I was seeing from the data and also what I was hearing too. Pay, benefits, work-life balance seem to be towards the top now. This will, of course, shift over time, you know, Labrita, to your point. But then we've got development and advancement. It seems like the data is kind of pointing to these 5 things really being at the top. I've also seen that, I think it's related to this or related in this report as well too. Things like workload also is important. There's a lot of people who are just feeling overwhelmed, and that's also a factor in the Great Resignation as well. People just felt that they're overworked. I think manager still is a big factor here. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics still says that the majority of the time, more than 50% of the time, most people do leave because of the direct manager, the relationship with the direct manager. Because the direct manager can make all this other stuff happen. So if the direct manager is not advocating for these things or helping, you know, that's your front line. It's the first person that you go
sometimes the
to.
direct manager doesn't know or don't feel empowered that they can make all of those other things happen. Speaking
They
to
could be
someone that
handcuffed
used to
too.
be
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a management role and had those barriers.
yeah,
So
it's a great point. Yeah, I know.
just to make sure that it's not all on the manager, you know, I want to throw them under the bus like that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I know for myself, when I was a leader of people, I know a lot of times I was very hamstrung. I mean, I couldn't, there's only so much I could do around pay. I could try and give them as much of an increase as possible, but benefits program, I couldn't, that's yeah, kind of limited in my ability to influence that. Work-life balance, I would try my darndest, but if there was, you know, high productivity needs, there's not much I could do about that.
Labrita? You're on mute?
Yeah, so I saw that Jennifer's iPhone clicked in, so I wasn't sure, Jennifer, you had something to say, to contribute?
No, my apologies.
No, no worries. And so just with that, I placed that, this is confirmed by the results of the outcomes of the 4-day workday trial outside of the United States, where companies and organizations experience a 92% approval rate of a 4-day work week and at least 35% increase in profit. In the United States, when that same study and the same trials were completed, the subject pool really skewed the data where it's not even significant. It was extremely white, extremely high tech, extremely, so all of the extremely's, all the demographics were so skewed that it wasn't a true barometer of how the 4-day work week would be accepted. And that's one of those benefits, or people are really seeking more than just work-life balance. They're, you know, seeking wellness. And so in that paradigm, we need to have time for ourselves, time for our work, and time for all that we want to explore later. And so those numbers were really shocking.
Yeah, great thing to bring up, Labrita. And I forgot about that. So now there's so much energy now behind, wait, a 4-day work week. I mean, prior to the pandemic, if you had proposed a 4-day work week to an American company, they would have thought that you were smoking something.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad now, again, I think we've turned the corner on this where we can start talking about, because if you all remember 2019, if you said to your boss, hey, I'd like to take the afternoon off to work from home, they'd be like, what? I mean, a lot of companies just would not allow it. But now it's just like, oh yeah, work from home, take your child to the dentist, do whatever you need to do. And now, of course, along with that, it's a double-edged sword, because then the expectation is, oh, when I email you at 9 o'clock in the evening, I expect an answer back. So there is this double-edged sword to that.
You mean I can't respond between 8 and 4?
You're right. Well, some managers do expect you to be online all the time.
I schedule my emails just for people to know.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, stop, it's closed. Okay. I wanted to see, and let's see here, there we go. I wanted to see if there was anything that I missed from that list. And I'm just going to cut and paste this. I just want to do a reality check here, folks. So is there anything that I missed from this list that you feel I did not include? And I just shot it over to the folks at home. So of this list of factors that go into retention, is there anything I missed?
I can add one in, and I think that's the work environment. So I'm looking at opportunities right now. I was laid off about 2 weeks ago, and it's making me think of, this opportunity is 5 days in person, and this one's fully at home, and this one's hybrid. And, what do I want in my career, and what do I want for my life? And I feel like those are choices that were not necessarily available pre-COVID in a big way. But like there was one job I'm interviewing for, and it's 5 days a week in person, and the commute's 45 minutes each way. And like, that sounds offensive to put on pants and shower every day and sit in the car for 45 minutes each way, 5 days a week. Like in pre-COVID, I wouldn't have blinked. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. So I really think kind of like the work setup, and not just in flexibility, but like, is this a fully remote job, or is this a hybrid, or is it in person? Like, what do employees really want, and what works for them and their families and their life and their lifestyle?
Yeah. Oh, great point. Yeah. Yeah. So that's certainly a factor. I heard two things from that. It's the work environment overall, but I also heard commuting time, and you have choices now.
Yeah.
So company will pay for relocation in city.
Relocation in the city.
I mean,
This is a very big city.
sometimes it might take you 2 hours to
Yeah.
get to work.
From one side to the next.
Well, I will say that in a different way, I'm experiencing that because I have an office. So I have an office outside of the home where I'm doing work. And so I literally was at work today. And the only reason why I realized that it was National Margarita Day is because the only reason why I realized it is because I do a lot of mindfulness work. And so I was like, if I'm going to be a practitioner, I need to practice. I kept looking out of the window, and I saw that it was sunny outside. The weather looked nice. But my point is this: even myself, I was considering my experience outside of the home and what my atmosphere and what my climate would be like to compel me to even go to another place outside of my home. And so I think climate and environment is absolutely a factor, because I thought about it today and how my physical environment should really be a respite. It should all be connected. And so for me, I resonate with that, Jessica.
Yeah.
So initiative, or Don, you got it? Yep, he does.
Okay. What in the chat?
Yep.
What about, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, this is Jennifer. So one thing I'm always interested in when I go into work environment is what work do we do on the outside of the four walls, as far as involvement in the community or things that's going on in our space that we can get involved as a collective unit. I always think that brings together a sense of collaboration, unity, same-mindedness, and helping everyone advance, more in the community aspect, giving back, in that way.
Yeah, Jennifer, that really resonates with me. Companies that have some sort of community involvement program, or, we give to Goodwill. We have all these programs that facilitate either investing time or your own money. Yeah, that's big for me.
So I named that under communities. So for New Gates, add to environment, which could be culture, but how to do the staff act.
How do the staff act?
Are they happy? Are they engaged? Are they respectful to coworkers?
Is our employees happy?
Or are they all just miserable and it's draining to be around them?
Yeah. Cool.
Civic leadership.
Civic leadership. Oh yeah, right on. Good one. Civic leadership.
I can throw in another one in the mix of, especially for like the work that a lot of us do. I think it's a combination of like, do you have the tools you need to do your job? So whether it's tech platform, that kind of thing, but also do you have the executive support, and is the work you're doing truly a priority in the organization? Because we all know it's an uphill battle if you don't have the C-suite really backing you up in the work that you're doing for the employee development. So I think that's a big piece, which may not, somebody in accounting or finance may not feel that way. But I think for the work we do, the tools and the executive support really can, make or break if you can actually perform and do your job well.
Oh God, I love that. Yes. I worked with a big corp once, and it was in a training and development capacity, Jessica, and the leadership was like, yeah, training and development, whatever. We all know it's just a vacation. They viewed training as vacation. They didn't view it as critical to the business. And it was very dispiriting for everybody that was in my staff.
So speaking, I work for an organization where I specifically stated before taking the role that I needed certain tools and resources. So just what you're saying, and so they said I would have it, and they turned around and said that, well, that's what we're paying you for. And I'm like, well, no, you're paying me for expertise. that doesn't produce the work. I still need the instructional design tools if I'm going to be designing things. I need the LMS if we're going to deploy these type of things, or understanding that purpose that's up there in the vision, and then how do we get there? So it's like, well, did you think this all the way through? Because one person can't produce all of the things. This is a team. This is a team environment. This is teamwork. So what are all the components that are involved?
Right on. Oh yeah. Okay. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit, folks. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for these great ideas. Now I want to shift gears, and we're going to go into some scenarios. And for the folks at home, we'll be putting you into a breakout room. And for the folks here, we'll have some scenarios that we can discuss and work on. So as you can see, there's certain case studies. There's one that's going to be pay-oriented, one that's career-oriented, one that's more around work-life balance, and another around culture. So for those at home, we're going to give you the first two to work on. And what I would like you to do is read over. It's a short scenario, and to answer these two questions: how do you think the employee is feeling? How is this affecting their work? And if you were a consultant at this company and you heard similar feedback from others, in other words, it's not a one-off, it's many people who are reporting the same thing, what would you advise? And specifically, what would you advise to leadership on the tactics to change? So I will put this in the chat for you all. So here's the first one for the folks at home. Here's the second one for the folks at home. And I'll put you into breakout rooms, so that way we won't eavesdrop and steal your ideas. That one cut and paste, didn't seem like it did. There we go. Okay, it went through. Okay, so you should have 2 scenarios at home. And I will put you all into a breakout room. And if we could take just about 20 minutes.
10 minutes.
What? We're running short on time? Oh, okay. Does this just go to 8?
Yeah, but you still want to keep it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought it went to 8:30. I thought this was a 2-hour program.
8:30. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. There you go.
Okay, all right, so 20 minutes. So Neil was very gracious to give us 20 minutes. Let's see here, breakout rooms, there we go. So there'll be 1 breakout room. Create that. Okay, so does everybody have the assignment? Everybody understand the assignment? All right, so we will put everybody into the breakout room. And just about 20 minutes, folks, 20 minutes. So we'll see you in about 20 minutes. All right, so the case studies that we have, I apologize here.
First in here.
That's, I can relay a story just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legos are cheap.
His love language is quality time.
Hey, folks, how did it go at home?
It went well. We had a good old time. Now, we didn't cover any of the subject matter, but we bonded.
Oh, geez. Oh, my
We
Lord.
engaged. We engaged.
We talked about some of the subject matter.
Yeah, we did. I mean, Patty.
Okay.
Patty and Carlos, there's some issues.
We
Oh,
talked about margaritas.
oh, my goodness.
We need to make a formal complaint to HR for both Patty and Carlos.
Yes, yeah, Patty and Carlos. That's where we left it.
Well,
No, that's not all the way true. So, we did have one of those, I'm gonna say PQ moments. And so Jonathan and Neil know what I mean by that. We're like mindfully, intentionally say, I'm talking too much.
Well, what I would like us to do is just kind of go through and just very briefly debrief each one of these. So we will start with y'all. So Patty's pay, did you get a chance to discuss Patty's pay?
Patty needs to get a new job. Patty needs to say, screw you, I'm out of here. Oh, wait, can you not say that as the consultant for the company?
Well, it's funny because we had a similar kind of dynamic because Kia had said like, well, if I were to coach my person, this is probably what I would advise, something very similar to what you just said, Jessica. But
Like, peace out, Patty. It's been a good run. It's time to move on.
Right on.
Choose your piece.
So for the folks in the classroom here, these scenarios are on the other side of that sheet.
Okay.
So just so we're all kind of level set. So, Patty's been working, past 7 years, healthcare firm. She kind of worked her way up. Her manager's great, fair, flexible, good work-life balance. The big challenge is pay and benefits, paying bennies. She's received yearly increases of 2.5%, which is slightly below average. No bonuses and only a 2% increase when promoted to supervisor. Again, benefits are below average at best. There's no 401k match, high deductible health insurance, few career development programs. she knew some recent hires that were brought in with a higher starting pay than her. Yeah, so she's seen on the web that equivalent positions pay about 8K more. So Jessica, you're saying, you would tell her maybe individually to go, but if you had a chance to sit with the CEO of the company, what would you say? What'd you come up with?
So we had talked about how it seems to be more commonplace that companies are doing level setting when it comes to salary expectations. So whether that's looking at Culpeper data, that kind of thing, and making sure that your employees are aligned with what the industry averages are for their roles, for their location, for their levels of experience. And let's say that shows that Patty is not aligned with that. Then that's like the other big question, because like I worked somewhere that they like did all these studies and they showed people were underpaid and then they did nothing about it, which is like, it's worth, like, don't do the study in the first place if you're not going to actually have the money to back it up. So you can't go into a compensation review if you don't have some kind of budgetary plan, or if you need to be making adjustments of how you can make that happen, because that's going to just make people very angry.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to ask the first question. So how do you think Patty is feeling?
Patty's pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I like a good alliteration.
Patty's pissed about her pay.
Patty's pissed about the pay.
Say that 5 times fast.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah. So certainly, and here's a little bit of a conceit here, folks. All these scenarios are from mostly real life scenarios. Of course, I've changed a few details to protect the innocent, but this is from somebody that is going through a difficult time at work. They're actually more at the mid-level and not like entry level. So they're more like a senior manager level, but the dynamic is all the same. Everything else is pretty much true. So you'd say the CEO, okay, salary level setting or compensation review, contact like a Mercer or a Hay to get an idea of what you should be paying these folks.
So I think somebody else in our room who had to hop off the call had said not just compensation review, but full benefit package review and what's competitive in the marketplace. So, are you on the right health insurance plan? That the premium's too high or the deductibles too high? And what about 401k? Like, do other companies your size, your scale offer a match? Like, are you competitive and relevant with other similar companies?
Yeah. Now,
So not.
We also talked about mission, vision. We also talked about mission, vision, and values being important as grounders for making determinations about whether to leave. So that alignment between what the company says it believes and what they actually do to enact that leadership or core value was important.
Yeah, I like that. What are your core values? Yep. Now, let me just be a little bit of a cynic and let me just say I'm a hard-nosed CEO. And I say, yeah, well, it is what it is. Right. So we want to maintain a certain margin, and we've looked at the compensation analysis. We've looked at our benefits package, but we're okay with it being under the 50 percentile.
Is there opportunity to expand upon your career development for Patty? Can we move her? She's been there 7 years. Can we move her to a different position that would give her some more training, some more development, higher pay, that you already have a level set pay for? We're not.
I like where you're going.
Yeah.
I like where you're going, which in this particular case, I had the opportunity to talk to their HR person. And she basically told me, I've had this conversation, Jonathan, and it didn't go anywhere. But I did have a conversation about, if you are concerned about cost, you are concerned about expenses, we are spending a lot of money on recruiting, probably more money than we should. And we should be focusing a little bit more on developing our employees and putting more monies into training and development. So they just started this. This is in January, just last month, where they started doing this. So I love where you're going with that. So
I actually have a friend that is in a very similar situation to this. She's a business office manager in a healthcare environment, healthcare setting.
mhm,
And she's worked there for probably 7 years. I've been here 10 years. For the whole 10 years, I think she's worked there and has been getting these penniless raises every year. She does everything at the office, and I've always tried to coach her and tell her, leave. Don't be afraid to leave, or at least just look outside for other options. And then she still hasn't left. So so her wanting to stay, I gave up on that. I told her, I said, well, maybe try this. Attach yourself to someone else that's in a position that you really do want there, that can pay you more money. So becoming a mentee and finding a mentor, and maybe that'll give you some visibility to be around the right people. And she did do that, and she is now pushing herself to apply for a different position. So I think attaching herself to that mentor kind of helps shift her mindset a little bit.
yeah, so that's, yes. So that's awesome. I mean, one of the things that this HR manager is going to do, or what they're starting to discuss, is training and development. And because it is a healthcare staffing firm, training and development in the healthcare field. So in other words, they'd be willing to subsidize if you want to become a nurse. If you want to go into coding, apparently coding is a big deal.
Yeah, coding is huge.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this. Coding is like a huge field.
It's
You can
huge.
make a lot of money
A
in coding.
lot, yeah.
I had no idea. So that's what they're looking to say, like, okay, we get it. We can't necessarily pay you more. We pay, they don't advertise this, but
It's remote.
we pay below the midpoint.
Yeah,
But we will help subsidize if you want to learn these other skills. And
that's
these other.
awesome. Yeah, that's good. That should make Patty happy.
So let's go to Carlo. So just to frame it up for the folks in here, Carlo had an insurance brokerage right after college, so younger, bright, ambitious. He wants to learn about the business. It's a great pay, benefits, good managers mostly, team focused. After 2 years at the service desk, so we kind of start off with an entry level role. He asked his manager, hey, what about supervisory or sales? I think I could do the sales role. The manager said, nah, you're just not ready for that yet. So, just sit down and keep doing your work. He asked if there's anything you can do to prepare for the next role, like having a mentor or taking a class. And his manager said, yeah, I don't know, but let's focus on your current role. So, here we have a bright, ambitious young person, 2 years doing well. I mean, he's doing well in his role. Asking about what's the next step, what's the next level. So folks at home, what did you come up with? How do you think he's feeling? How do you think this will affect his work?
We looked at Patty and Carlos as a team. So we really didn't, we thought that the same interventions for Carlos were similar, but I will say the difference in Carlos is that he is having a values conversation with himself around what the say they believe and they want and they need, and how they support the development of that future success. And so that's where that vision, mission, and values conversation really came in. As Jennifer describing how you can say all the right things to employees, but do you basically do all the right things to support them? What are the resources that say that? And just even him saying the statement that he doesn't feel like he's ready for all of that was problematic. And so
Yeah.
my group, she might have something to add, but we kind of put them as a pair.
Okay, yeah, well, and I'm sure he may have some self-doubt as well, and that self-doubt could be about his self-doubt about capabilities. You know, you start doubting himself, and if he's with the right company.
And we thought that he might be feeling a little skeptical.
Skeptical, yeah, great way to
Yeah,
put
like
it.
why would you feel this way based on what I for?
Gotcha. Now, if you were-
The other thing I can add in for Carlo was thinking about from the organizational perspective, what's the manager's role in all of this? Is the manager just not wanting to quote unquote give up Carlo because he's a great team member and he doesn't want to worry about replacing and training somebody new? Like, right, like look at for the manager, all the direct reports that person's had for the past how many every years, like is he just like a people hoarder, or does he not have the time or know what the options might be to develop an employee? Like maybe, you know, let's assume positive intent, but maybe the manager is just not equipped or doesn't feel like he can, you know, give Carlo up because of bandwidth. Like what's going on with the manager that he's so dismissive? You know, let's assume Carlo's a rock star and assume positive intent, but like what's going on with the manager that would be his reaction.
Yeah,
Love people hoarder.
yeah.
We've all worked with those and we're like, yeah, if you hoard them and don't let them go anywhere, they're gonna leave, but like leave the company, not just like leave your team.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. That's a really interesting perspective. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So if you were a consultant and you had a meeting with the C-suite, what would you advise? Let's just say you've heard other testimonials like this throughout the company. So what would you advise?
I would say for formal programs for, you know, employee growth, whether it's learning or development, and take a little bit of that off of the managers. Because some managers are really good about that kind of thing and some managers are really not. And I think there's different reasons, whether it's people hoarding or they just don't have the bandwidth or they don't even know what to do. But I think, you know, when you leave that in with the managers, sometimes it's going to go well and sometimes it's not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So having like recommend career discussions. And
I would say resources outside of their chain of command.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Outside of the manager. Like, what does their internal mobility look
So-
like? Are they able to have like transparent conversations with other departments and managers without feeling like they're stepping on their direct manager's toes?
right. Or yeah, like shadowing / mentoring.
Or the team or, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in this one, you guys got it very close that in this particular case, Carlo did make an appeal to, they had a skip level meeting with their manager's manager. And during that skip level meeting, the manager's just like, so Carlo, how's it going? I hear great things about you. And he was very tactful because I coached him, so I helped him with this conversation. He was very tactful about saying, boy, I love this company and I would love to grow with this company. I'm just not sure how to get started. So from that conversation, it was, oh, well, what were you thinking of? And he said, well, I was thinking maybe sales because I think that I'd be good in sales. He's just like, oh my gosh, yeah. So, hey, let's you and your manager talk about, you know, what we might want to do. So that's kind of where we are right now. I haven't heard, so I know he hasn't been fired. So far as I know, everything's going okay.
They're probably gonna love him in sales.
Yeah. He's a super dynamic guy, like super, super dynamic. All right, cool. So now we're going to go over into the other scenarios that we worked on here. And that's why I shot them to you in the chat. So hopefully you guys had a chance to take a look at Brenda's balance. So Brenda, it's at a law firm. This was a pretty intense, high volume law firm. And Brenda is exhausted. She works 10-hour days, paralegal manager, started off great, onboarding process. She was like, yeah, this is cool. They're a purpose-driven law firm. They do community engagement and development. The pay is great, benefits fantastic, career development programs. But along with this, and maybe many of you have heard about or lived through scenarios like this, the work-life balance just sucks. Managers very demanding. Even during the pandemic, they had to be in the office from 8 to 5. Even though they had a fairly generous 4-week paid vacation, she was only ever able to take about a week every year. And there was one instance that really got her under her skin, where her 7-year-old daughter was ill, and her manager still made her come into work to prepare for a critical case. So what did we come up with, team, on this side as far as how she might be feeling?
Overworked, stress.
Yeah,
What did you say? Stress
No.
and stress.
overworked, stressed, overwhelmed.
Okay.
Yes, so the words that she used with me specifically, let's just spell check here. Oh, this bothers me. There we go. Okay, was stressed and stretched. I feel stressed and stretched. Also micromanage. And Neil made a funny comment about, like, yeah, she makes great pay, but she can't spend it.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first comment I think was made by Kia. So Kia had said, like, well, if I were to coach her, I would basically coach her on, and I'm paraphrasing,
Mhm.
but the pay, is it worth your sanity?
Right.
So from a coaching perspective, this is pay worth your sanity?
Prioritize what's important to you.
Mhm.
So I think we got into, as you grow in your career, or as you're there, your needs change along the way. So Brenda's a new Brenda at this point. Your kids are getting older. Your priorities might change.
Yeah.
Their needs might change. They might become more active in extracurricular activities that you might want to be present for.
Jeffrey had said, probably what we would want to do if we met with the CEO is, how explicit are the expectations being made? How explicit are the work expectations? So this would be during onboarding, during recruiting, onboarding, and let's see. Setting expectations during recruiting. And the business reasons were that we could say to the CEO is retention is important for stability of the business. So this is like client relations. This is a pretty intense law firm. So they want to make sure that their clients are well taken care of. And if they have high turnover, that's not going to happen. Clients and client retention. That gets back to that service profit chain. And they'll spend less money on recruiting fees. Less money on recruiting fees. Did I capture that right, Tina? What about you guys at home? Is there anything that you think that we missed?
I have thrown in the chat, it sounds like Brenda perhaps likes the company and the work, that it could just be an issue with the manager. So maybe she could work on a different team or under a different manager in a different role. And that could solve her problem. Yes, because people put managers. It doesn't mean it's a bad company or it's a bad fit. Maybe it's just not the best person to be working for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it could be a new role for her is needed.
Yeah, and other thing is, when we look at a problem or issue, we describe it based on where we sit at any point in time. So when we ask the question, you know, what do you want? What do you want right now? That's different from someone thinking with a sustainable or a long game perspective. So maybe one intervention here is that we pose the question from a temporal perspective and thinking about points in time. All right, so what's important to you 30 days from now? What's important from you a year from now? 3 years, 5 years, etc.
Yeah.
It's like creating a strategic plan for your life.
Absolutely.
You said that as if we should be doing that.
That's what,
Well,
that's what my financial advisor told me.
Yeah. We should, yes.
Yeah, I love where this is going. So in this particular case, I think it is the realization for her that there needs to be a change, and it is a high intensity law firm. So the expectations are very high, and they're typically, if you all know anything about these types of law firms or these environments, it is churn and burn. That's what they're known for. Now, when she was younger, this was great. She loved it. But now that she has a daughter, it's not cool anymore. So it is this realization that she herself needs to make a change. But I do appreciate what Jeffrey and Neil were saying about, you know, if this is the case, as a leadership team and as a culture, you probably want to be explicit with that expectation. Like, hey, folks, we demand a lot. We also pay well. So it's kind of like a devil's bargain, right? All right, cool. Now the last one. So this is more about culture. So Chris was recruited into as a software developer. He was getting paid double what he previously got. So the pay was the lure that brought him to this company. The benefits were great, better than average, good advancement, developmental opportunities. His manager was okay, but he didn't really interact with him much beyond email. So this is just an email relationship. He said he met his manager twice. Once during an interview and the first day on the job when he filled out the HR forms. That was it. Manager didn't ask for his opinion, didn't include him in on higher level meetings. They were supposed to come in at least twice a week for status meetings and other collaborations, but very rarely people would come in. He said, I would come into the office with a ghost town. There's hardly anybody there. After 3 years, he only physically met about 20 people. And this was a company of several hundred, by the way. Very few people put their cameras on during Zoom meetings, no recognition, no feedback. Performance reviews are once a year online with really no discussion. He was the only African-American software developer, and he felt isolated from the other developers who were mostly white, Asian or white. So I think what we came up with, folks, was that he felt disconnected. Well, I think isolated was the first word that he came up with. Isolated, disconnected. And he said to me that he felt unfocused. It was very difficult for him to focus on his work. He didn't really have the same passion about software development that he used to have. Now, if we were consultants to this company, what we came up with is that, and I forget who said this, but it was about, you know, maybe the manager and company set expectations for inclusion. For inclusion. So that could be like creating gatherings, check-ins. Check-ins probably in person, if possible. And Jeffrey had come up with create training and development as an opportunity to connect. So create training and development as an opportunity to connect.
We mentioned about bringing Chris in on some of those high level meetings.
Oh yeah, bring Chris in higher level meetings, yeah.
Visibility and delegating some projects or certain tasks out to him to.
Yeah,
That's more
delegation.
valuable work.
Yeah, right, more team-based work. Mhm.
And I would also question, like, is Chris the only employee that's feeling this way? Does the company need to be looking at the culture and engagement opportunities? Because I would bet, and I'm sure most people on the call would too, that he's probably not the only person that's feeling a little disengaged and disconnected.
Yeah, so engagement surveys, yeah, and I think that's probably true for all these scenarios. Actually, only 2 of the companies I know actually had opinion surveys, employee opinion surveys, but unfortunately, they didn't do anything with them.
Which is worse than not doing them at all.
100%, right. So, anything else that you guys wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think you hit it on the nail, you know, being able to see if this is more of a pattern of perspectives versus just a single individual's experience. Not to use that to not make decisions, but the other part of that is, you know, thinking about how we are able to really listen and hear and set those clear expectations around what is achievable, what is reliable and repeatable in the long term.
Oh, I like that. What is achievable?
Repeatable and reliable. Not the plans. Plans are very easy to architect. It's the ideas and the plans together in alignment to make sure it happens in the execution.
Right on. Neil, is there anything in the chat that I missed?
No.
Okay, folks, so we're right at the end of the program. Thank you so much for your great ideas. Was this helpful?
This is so helpful. This is great.
Cool. So we'd be happy to distribute the deck to everybody. And I think, Neil, are you going to send them a link for?
The recording, once it's downloaded, we'll be able to get it and distribute it to those in ATA.
Okay, cool. All right, so with that said, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for staying through to the evening. You can now go home to your pets and other loved ones.
So, nice seeing you, Jessica.
Everybody, thank you.
Happy Margarita Day, Labrita.
Happy Margarita Day.
We didn't talk about
let's
You
take
know,
a
I feel like I
picture.
should go get a margarita.
Let's take a picture, everybody. One.
Yeah.
All right, on your end. You
Oh,
know the
on my
picture?
end? Okay.
I looked at the owl thing.
Oh, not sure.
Whoa, what? There we
That
go.
owl thing is creepy. We had one at my old office. It follows you around the room. It has eyes.
Oh,
It's so
there you go.
creepy. I hate it.
Okay, I got it. Oh, hey, there's Neil. All right, I got it.
Nice meeting everyone.
Nice,
All right.
yes.
It's nice
Everybody
meeting
have a good
y'all.
day.
Have a great evening.
The rest of you came up with one.
Cheers, y'all.